Ivan the Terrible. Not a lot of people know who he is, but today we're about to learn about him. You're on the Spazzy Bazzy podcast, and today, like I said, we're learning about the rise, reign, and ruin of Russia's first Tsar. I appreciate you guys being here for the video. If you enjoy this type of content, please hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, your family, your auntie, your mama, everybody. We gotta get everybody in on here. You feel me? And let's just have another good podcast, man. So we're diving into the life of a ruler whose name still echoes through history as both legend and a warning. Ivan the Fourth Vasilievich, the man the world came to know as Ivan the Terrible. So, he wasn't born into peace or stability. From the moment he could walk, Ivan's world was filled with betrayal, violence, and fear. A childhood that would shape one of the most powerful and terrifying monarchs the world has ever seen. Under his reign, Russia transformed from a fractured collection of principalities into a centralized empire that demanded loyalty through blood and fear. He built churches, expanded borders, and introduced the printing press to Russia. Yet, he also unleashed unspeakable cruelty, creating a secret police force that terrorized his own people. Imagine that. So, like, I'm just trying to put myself in that time. Not as him, but as just like somebody who lives in that era. It's got to be a wild transition. Just a person with absolute power doing stuff behind the scenes. Pretty scary. So today we're peeling back the layers of myth and power to look at the real Ivan IV, the orphan boy who grew up surrounded by death, the young Tsar who dreamed of reform, and the paranoid ruler who's descended into brutality. This is the story of ambition, genius, fear, and a thin line between order and chaos. Let's step into the shadow of the Kremlin walls and begin. So, his early life. Ivan IV was born on August 25th. Not actually, that's pretty close to my birthday. My birthday's on August 13th, so that's pretty not too far. In 1530, damn, that's a long time ago, in Kolomenskoy, a royal estate outside of Moscow. I hope I said that right. My apologies if I didn't. Wet the whistle a little bit. The man who completed the gathering of Russian lands and strengthened the Orthodox Church's role in statecraft. But Vassal died. Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry, his father Vassal III ruled as Grand Prince of Moscow, the man who completed the gathering of Russian lands and strengthened the Orthodox Church role in statecraft. My apologies. But Vassal died when Ivan was only 3 years old, leaving the kingdom to a toddler. His mother Elena Glinskaya became regent and actually governed quite effectively. She reformed the currency, fortified Moscow, and curbed boyar influence, which is like, I guess, a noble. The nobles, she curbed the nobles' influence in the region. Okay, so she's getting more power for herself. But in 1538, when Ivan was just 8, she died suddenly, almost certainly poisoned by boyars eager to seize control. So nobles poisoned her. They think it was like, damn, that's really crazy to think about, because like all throughout time, like the Romans were poisoning people, the Egyptians were poisoning people, like all for power. It's just so crazy to think about that, like humans have been doing this for a long time. It's just a sickening thing to think about. Like, oh my god. Like, imagine the people that are supposed to be like your right hand man. Maybe they're not your friends, but they're like your colleagues, like your coworkers. Like, imagine all of your coworkers plotting against you. They're like, why don't we just like put arson in his fucking sandwich? Nah. Let's when he goes home and uses his toothbrush, we'll leave bleach on it every day. Cause the minty toothpaste, that's such a weird thing, bro. Like your colleagues are plotting against you to steal your power. After her death, chaos reigned. Rival families, the Shurskys, the Blenskys, and the Glinskys waged silent war over the child Tsar's regency. Ivan was reduced to a puppet, often neglected, sometimes beaten. Contemporary sources described him scrounging for food and witnessed executions as casual entertainment for nobles. That entertainment shaped him. By adolescence, Ivan had come to despise the autocracy, believing himself the only legitimate source of power in Russia. Then, on January 16th in 1547, I was going to say how, it says right here at just 16, I guess I did write it. I was going to say, how long is that? Yeah, I wrote it, wow. Ivan staged a coronation like none before. Inside the Kremlin's golden Dormitation Cathedral, he took unprecedented title Tsar of all Russia. Damn, he just claimed himself like, I own all of you. I am the supreme leader. The Tsar from Caesar declared Moscow the third Rome, the new center of Christian empire after the fall of Byzantium. He wrapped himself in sacred authority. That's a pretty wild thing to do at the age of 16, but you also have to keep in mind, a grown man was 16 back in this time, because like you probably died at the age of like 30 if you were lucky. You know what I mean? So for a 16, like imagine a 16-year-old nowadays in charge of shit. This is like bananas. I mean, they grew up faster too, so it'd be like a more mature 16-year-old, but not cognitive enough to make decisions. How do you put it? It's just, I don't know. It's very fascinating. 2 weeks later, he married Anastasia Romanov from the Romanov family, a noble, pious woman who stabilized him emotionally. For the first time in centuries, Russia had a crowned sovereign with divine legitimacy, an imperial vision, and an unshakable belief that God had chosen him alone to rule. So now we're going into stage 2, reform and his early rule. So this is like kind of when he started, being big boss man, big boss Ivan, dude. Fucking, he really started handling it. So before he became terrible, Ivan was actually known for progress. His early reign from 1547 through the 1550s was one of innovation and reform. He reformed an advisory council known as the Chosen Council. I'm not going to try to pronounce that in Russian, I apologize, but it's translated to the Chosen Council. This group included Alexei Adashev, a capable administrator, metropolitan Markias, a leaned churchman, and Sylvester, a reformed-minded priest who believed a ruler must be accountable to God for the welfare of his people. Together, they began reshaping the state. In 1549, Ivan convened the first Zemsky Sober, a kind of national assembly representing nobles, clergy, and merchants. The first inklings of participatory... Why did I write such big words? Jesus. The first inklings of participatory governance in Russia. Then came the Sudebnik of 1550, I hope I pronounced that right, I apologize, a comprehensive legal code that streamlined justice, imposed penalties on corrupted judges, and required uniform taxation. It emphasized personal accountability, no small feat in a land long ruled by feudal privilege. Ivan also reformed local government by allowing the election of Guba elders, local justices from the gentry class. It decentralized certain functions, but strengthened his legitimacy by appearing to empower loyal subordinates instead of hereditary nobles. Let me wet my whistle. Military saw nope, we read that right here. So the military saw even greater change. Ivan created the Streltsy, Russia's first standing firearm units. Salaried directly by the crown, he improvised fortifications and logistics and established new ranks based on merit rather than noble birth. That's interesting. So, like, instead of being part of these bloodlines, these nobles that have been just running shit for years, it's about merit. It's like, are you really worth the bread we're feeding you, bro? Like, are you putting in the work? So that's really when, like, it started turning into, I guess, kind of communist in a sense, like the beginning stages. It's pretty interesting. So the church wasn't spared from reform either. The Stoglavry Sabor Council of the 100 Chapters in 1551 standardized Orthodox rituals, approved new saints, and promoted moral discipline among clergy. And in 1553, Ivan founded the Moscow Print Yard, introducing printing to Russia. The first printed book, The Apostle, appeared in 1564, spreading literacy and religious unity. That's really wild. So in 1553, the Moscow Print Yard was produced. But in 1564, so it took a whole... Damn, it took a whole 11 years for them to write the first book out of there, bro. They must have been... What were they using? Probably, like, old-ass typewriters, or maybe even doing it by hand? That's fascinating to me. Wow, 11 years. That's crazy. Imagine, like, you're working on one project for 11 years, and, like, you're just writing a book over and over and over and over to make multiple copies for these people. Oh, God. He even opened Russia to Western trade, inviting English merchants from the Muscovy Company to establish contact with London, leading to diplomacy with Queen Elizabeth I. Ideologically, Ivan saw himself as a divinely appointed reform, tasked with cleansing Russia of corruption and chaos. He believed that autocracy was sacred, that he ruled in imitation of God, who alone commanded him from the heavens to the earth. So he truly, like, had this, like, weird power trip almost. He was power tripping. He's like, yo, I am God. I am God's choice. Fear me. I'm the king. Or the Tsar, sorry. I'm the Tsar. Here we are. Sorry, I lost my spot. Yet for all of his innovation, cracks were forming. Heavy new taxes angered peasants. Nobles resented losing power. The church worried about state overreach. And a devastating fire in Moscow in 1547 destroyed large parts of capital, which many took as a divine warning. They thought it was like God being like, dude, he's not the choice. He's not him. They freaked out, dude. Right? I mean, how would you feel if that's all starting to happen? You know, like that, like he's claiming all this power and certain things are just falling apart slowly but surely. Very fascinating. But still at this point, Ivan IV looked like a young visionary ruler, one who could have become one of the great modernizers of Europe had fate and fear not interfered. So now We're in segment 3. This is kind of like chapter 3 of this. It's his expansion and empire, alright? We're getting into the good stuff now. Now we're going to start seeing why he's so terrible, alright? With reforms underway, Ivan turned outward. His ambition now was empire. For 2 centuries, Russia had suffered under the shadow of the Mongol Golden Horde. Ivan wanted revenge and liberation. Sorry, I lost my spot. His first major campaign was against the Khanate of Kazan. Khanate of Kazan, sorry. A Tatar-controlled state on the Volga. After a brutal siege in 1552, Russian forces stormed Kazan's walls, using artillery, sappers, and siege towers, modeled after Ottoman tactics. The victory ended Mongol dominance in central Russia and opened the Volga River trade. To commemorate the conquest, Ivan ordered the constitution of St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow Red Square. A visionary sermon of faith and victory, its colorful domes said to represent the heavenly city of Jerusalem. In 1556, he took Astrakhan. I hope I'm saying these right. I really apologize to anybody who's Russian that's going to chew me out watching this. Extending Russian power to the Caspian Sea. The entire Volga corridor, a lifeline of trade and culture, was now in Russian hands. He just took these things. These victories electrified the nation. For the first time, Russia was not defending, but conquering. Ivan began referring to himself as Tsar of Kazan and Astrakhan, signaling a new imperial identity. But his next target, the Baltic Sea, would prove not so easy. In 1558, he launched the Livonian War against the Livonian Order to open trade routes with Europe. At first, he succeeded. Russian troops captured Narva and Dorpat, reaching the Baltic coast. But success drew powerful enemies. By the mid-1560s, Poland, Lithuania, Sweden, and Denmark all joined the war. Russia faced a united northern coalition. The war dragged on for 25 years. It consumed men, treasure, and morale. As famine spread and the treasure emptied, Ivan began to see conspiracies everywhere. He accused nobles of treason, generals of sabotage, and priests of secret heresy. The whole country just was like being accused, and I wonder if there was truth to it because of how bad things were, or if he was just like a leader with power that like was losing it and he's like going mad, you know what I mean? And we don't really know because, you know, at the end of the day, he's the one that pretty much chose what got written in history since he was a ruler. We don't really know, which is fascinating. The war dragged on for... I read that. Then in 1571, the Crimean Khan Devlet I Giray invaded Russia with Ottoman support. The Crimean army burned Moscow to the ground. An unbearable humiliation for a man who called himself God's chosen Tsar. That must have been a real kick in the nuts, dude. Ugh. Though Ivan rebuilt the city, something in him broke. From this point on, the young reformer and empire builder gave way to the paranoid autocrat history remembers. Segment 4. So we're in chapter 4 now, guys. The turn... I can't pronounce this word. I heard it before and I forget it. Oprachinia and Reign of Terror. In 1560, Ivan's beloved wife Anastasia fell ill and died, likely poisoned by the nobles. She had been his moral anchor, the one person who could temper his fury. Her loss broke him. Grief turned into suspicion, and suspicion turned into rage. In 1565, Ivan did something unpredictable. He declared the creation of Oprachina, literally the separate realm. He split Russia in half. One half, the Oprachina, under his direct and absolute control, and the other half, the Zemshurchina, left to traditional governance but subservient to him. He withdrew to Alexandrovske Sloboda, a fortified monastery palace, where he lived like a monk king, fasting by day and ordering executions by night. To enforce his will, Ivan created the Oprachniki, his personal guard, a mix of fanatics and killers, dressed in black, riding horses, carrying dog heads and brooms on their saddles to sniff out treason and sweep it away. For the next 7 years, Russia descended into state-sponsored terror. The Oprachnik rode around town to town, confiscating land, torturing nobles, and slaughtering entire families. Villages suspected of disloyalty were burned. Survivors were enslaved. Ivan's ideology behind this massive... oh my god, that was terrible. Let me restart that. Hold on one second. My apologies. Ivan's ideology behind this madness was persuasive, perverse, yet consistent. He believed Russia was God's kingdom on earth, and he, as Tsar, was its divine instrument of purification. To him, purging sinners and traitors wasn't cruelty, it was salvation through fire. In 1570, his wrath turned on Novgorod, one of Russia's oldest and wealthiest cities. Ivan accused its citizens of plotting to join Poland in Lithuania, sorry, I didn't write that. He ordered the Oprachnik to cleanse it. For weeks they looted, tortured, and executed men, women, and children. Thousands were drowned in the Volkhov River beneath the ice while priests blessed the slaughter. Witnesses said Ivan watched from his sled as bodies floated past. The massacre of Novgorod became the darkest stain on his reign. The moment the terrible truly lived up to his name. Yet paradoxically, Ivan saw himself as a holy warrior. He wrote to his former advisor, Prince Kurbsky, who had defected to Lithuania, defending his actions. I am the Tsar and autocrat, responsible before God alone. Better that I destroy the guilty than let the innocent perish from their treachery. This twisted sense of divine accountability fueled the terror, but it backfired. Agriculture collapsed as peasants fled. Trade grounded to a halt. The army, now split between Oprachniki and regular troops, became ineffective. When Crimean Tartars attacked in 1571, Ivan's elite guard panicked and fled. Humiliated, Ivan dissolved the Oprachina in 1572, but the damage was done. Russia had become a land ruled by fear. The reformer was gone. The tyrant remained. So this is segment 5, the decline, the dynastic tragedy, and his final years. So, in 1570 and early 1580s were years of exhaustion. The Livonian War still raged. Russia's borders shrank under Swedish and Polish pressure. Famine stalked the countryside. At court, paranoia deepened. Ivan remarried again and again and again. At least 6 wives, possibly 8, seeking companionship and heirs, but finding only intrigue and tragedy. He trusted few and accused many. Then came the moment that defined his end. In 1581, Ivan's pregnant daughter-in-law appeared at court wearing light clothing. Ivan, furious at what he saw as a modesty, beat her, causing a miscarriage. His son, Tarsevich Ivan Ivanovich, rushed to defend her. In the ensuing argument, the Tsar struck his son in the head with his iron staff. The blow was fatal. Ivan's cry of honor reportedly echoed through the Kremlin. May I be damned, I've killed my son. The painting by Ilya Repin centuries later immortalized that scream, the look of a father realizing he destroyed his own future. When Ivan died 3 years later on March 18th, 1584, while playing chess, Russia was left in the hands of his frail, childlike second son, Fyodor I. Without a strong heir, the dynasty of Rurik, which had ruled Russia since the 9th century, collapsed. What followed was chaos, famine, civil war, foreign invasions, the era as time of troubles. The empire Ivan had built stood vast but hollow. Legacy and reflection. So, who was Ivan the Terrible, really? He was a visionary who forged the Russian state, or a madman who nearly destroyed it. In truth, he was a piece of both. I mean, he centralized authority, codified laws, modernized the army, expanded Russia's borders, and established the first printing press. He turned a loose collection of duchies into a united autocratic empire. The framework that later Tsars and even Soviet leaders would inherit. But the price was staggering. He used terror as policy, torture as confession, fear as faith. He crippled his nobility, traumatized his people, and set precedents for state violence that echoed for centuries. Even his nickname tells a story. Grozny in Russia doesn't mean terrible in a moral sense. It means formidable, awe-inspiring, dreadworthy in his own mind. Ivan wasn't evil, he was righteous, the hammer of God striking sinners into obedience. Yet history rarely forgives those who sanctify cruelty. The contradictions of Ivan IV, reformer and tyrant, genius and madman, mirror the contradictions of the empire he built. Strong yet fearful, devout yet brutal, visionary yet haunted. Centuries later, Russian writers like Pushkin and historians like Karamazin would debate him endlessly. Was he the father of the Russian state or the destroyer of its soul? Perhaps both, because Ivan the Terrible forces us to confront a timeless question. When a ruler claims divine power to do what he believes is right, whatever he wants, who reclaims to tell him he's wrong? Because Ivan the Terrible. Thanks for listening. Who? Yeah. I mean, who's gonna like? Yeah. At the end of the day, who? It's a really a power check thing. You know, you need checks and balances. I mean, it's difficult because it's really that. Yeah, it's that one question. Is being the hammer, better than letting people think for themselves in a sense. And like, I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I don't think there is a real answer to that. I think it's a balance. I think that there is, yeah, there's certain times when you should be, aggressive with the situation. There's certain times where you should kind of hold back and be a little more passive and read your options, or even not act at all sometimes is the best answer. But it is fascinating to look at people like that and just see like how their life as a child and like developing, having his parents die, and I mean, he was getting beaten by the people that took over his power and shit like that. Like, it's pretty crazy. Having that power at the age of 16, like, that's gonna be a lot of weight on your shoulders, you know. And knowing that his parents got murdered, and now you are in power, and you're thinking everyone around you is gonna kill you. It's freaky, you know. But definitely an interesting character. I want to do more history stuff. I've done a couple history videos in different regions, but I like learning about different stuff like that. I think it's fascinating. I think I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I learned more and read up on it, and I'm glad I got to teach you guys with me, and we got to have this conversation. If you like the content, make sure to hit the like button. Tell your friends, like I said at the beginning of the video. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Always hit the bell notification so you catch all the videos when they get dropped. We're going to be doing more streaming content. A lot more videos over the streaming content. I'm noticing that the videos might be the way to go. So we're going to do more videos, less streams, but I will be posting ahead of time, a week in advance before we stream. That way people have a heads up. And just, yeah, don't count me out. I'm here, and I'm doing good, and I'm back, ready to fucking kick ass. I hope that you guys are doing well, and I'll catch you in the next video, dude. Peace.